If you have dreamed of having a family your entire life, and when that time finally came, someone told you that you couldn't have that family because of the way that you lived your life, you would see that as being unfair. This is the case for most LGBTQ couples when it comes to the adoption and/or foster care system or process. If you want to go out and adopt a child, and someone told you that you couldn't because of your lifestyle choices, that would be completely discriminatory. This is how it is viewed, and this is the case for most LGBTQ couples when they are looked at for these processes. LGBTQ couples should have the same and/or equal rights to any heterosexual couple when it comes to these situations. When gay couples apply into the adoption process, they can face much prejudice because of their sexual orientation. Discrimination just does not only come from the law, but it also comes from a more personal belief. According to the New York Times, the Trump administration seeks to roll back an Obama-era rule that classified sexual orientation and gender identity as classes protected from discrimination. Now, in the United States, private industries and agencies do have the right to refuse service to anybody, but in 22 states, it is against the law to discriminate against anyone based off of race, gender, and orientation. It would be illegal and a hate crime for these agencies to discriminate against these certain types of people. Now, addressing what the problem is, we now need to find a solution. Any couple, despite sexual orientation and race, has the right to adopt a child and care for one in their house. By changing some of these harsh laws, we can make sure that any LGBTQ couple feels the same and lives the same equal life that any heterosexual couple would. Children who are looking for a loving and caring home do not look and discriminate against the parents that are wanting to adopt them. This should be viewed by the people who are applying these parents to these certain children. We should be focusing more on the children having support in a loving, caring home rather than the people that we do and do not like. When we look at same-sex couples, it is very obvious that biologically they cannot produce their own children. So many of them turn to adoption and foster care to start their families and live a normal life. A very efficient change would be the change in local and state government laws. The legalization of gay marriage in 2016 was a huge stride for the gay community. The Center for American Process states, studies on the diffusion of policy ideas indicate that actions that begin at the local level have the potential to influence peer jurisdictions and can translate to changes at the state and federal levels in a phenomenon called the snowball effect. Countries that pass policies to better serve LGBTQ community members serve as case studies that provide policymakers with opportunity to evaluate and refine the effectiveness of emerging ideas that can be adopted in other jurisdictions. Allowing the communities to take action first will help start movements and make the journey to the bigger federal government a much simpler process. When these actions and steps take into order to defend the LGBT community, there are many positive things that will come out of it. American Adoption says, in fact, same-sex couples are 4 times more likely to be raising an adopted child and 6 times more likely to be raising foster children than heterosexual couples. Today, 4% of adopted children and 3% of foster children are raised by gay and lesbian parents, and 2 million more LGBTQ individuals are interested in adopting. We need to put an end to discrimination because these people could be and can be great parents. If someone wants to raise a child, they have every right in the world to raise that child. There are many struggles still for the LGBT community, and it is a long and grueling process when it comes to adoption for anyone, but it makes it 10 times more difficult for an LGBTQ person because of the discrimination and prejudice that they face. Though over 100,000 kids in the adoption and foster care system, and only about half of those children are adopted yearly. If there was a raise in LGBTQ couples and people who were willing to adopt, the adoption numbers would rise. This means that LGBTQ couples should not feel discriminated against or feel like they will not get the life that they deserve because of certain people's views on them. Policy Genius states, more studies are showing that children raised by queer people do just as well as children raised by their straight counterparts. Research is showing that children raised by gay or lesbian couples show a lot of sensitivity, openness, and a freedom of bias, so there are birth parents who prefer placing children with them. If there are more available couples, especially LGBTQ couples, there are many more homes for these children waiting to find their forever home. Now, not every gay couple would choose to adopt or choose down that path, but if they do, they shouldn't feel scared or nervous when going into an agency to get a child to start their family because of the way that they live their life. There are hundreds of thousands of children who just want a home and want to feel loved by parents. With many people still waiting and wanting and willing, there are 2 million LGBTQ people who are willing to adopt children, which means there are that many homes for these children who are just waiting around for a family. If the United States and the world refuses to accept change and equal life for all human beings, it will only slow down what is yet to come. Instead of allowing our country to open up and grow, we are just delaying the inevitable and keeping it from growing even bigger and better than it already is. A country is only as good as the people that are inside it. A country where people feel free, welcomed, and don't feel discriminated against is better off than a country that's divided, discriminatory, and angry at each other. People will stand up for their beliefs and their rights. That is what our country was built on. It is those same principles that led us to where we are today. If we in the LGBTQ community stand up for each other, we can make that the process that needs to happen now. Leaving behind our differences and opening up to other views will help fight equality. No matter what someone's sexual orientation is, it is not fair to take away their right to a family or a child. If someone from the LGBTQ community wants to adopt, they should not have to deal with the discrimination, the prejudice, and feel scared when it comes to starting a family. No one in the United States should feel scared when it comes to adoption. They just want a child to care for and love on and have in their home. And those children are waiting to have parents as well. You wouldn't want someone telling you that you couldn't have a child, so why should they?